Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's HR Mentorship Learning Series. And tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, talent management in the aviation sector. And our facilitator is Limited Management and Change. She has over 12 years experience in human resources and operational experience across different industries, including aviation, trade, construction, real estate sector, and so on and so forth. She was the head of HR, Kemema Nigeria Limited, Merit Abroad Limited, and GAM Products Limited. She is also currently the HR lead, Aviatrix Hub Consultant. She has worked with Sky Power Aviation Handling Company and Ari Care Limited. As a transformational leader, she has great insight into matching HR procedures to business objectives that has led to employee development and organizational growth. And gentlemen, she holds a master's degree in peace and conflict from the University of Ibadan, and she's an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Owing to the fact that she loves to volunteer for a good cause, she served as chairman, CIPM Apapa chapter, Lagos branch. She was also the general secretary, African Organizational Development Network. She is currently serving in a committee, the CIPM at national level. Ladies, please let's welcome Mary as she takes over this session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, sir. And good evening, everyone. I want to say a big thank you for you to be able to find time, despite your busy schedule, despite having to be in the office today, the hustling and bustling, and you're able to make it to this evening's learning section. Yes, we're definitely going to look at talent management in the aviation sector. And why are we looking at this topic? The whole essence is to help us to be able to have inside knowledge how talents are being managed in the aviation sector as against other sectors that we might probably have experienced one or two. And in the aviation sector is a bit tricky in the sense that virtually all the positions comes with license, comes with training, come with aviation body and international body also having to cross-check to ensure that each of the talent have what it takes to actually occupy the positions that they occupy. So when we look at talent management in the aviation, of course, some of us are familiar with some positions. When we talked about like the pilots, we are familiar with pilots. We are familiar with cabin crew. We are familiar with some of us are familiar with the ground operation staff. The ground operation staffs are the ones that we get to see that either they are the staff that handles our baggage handling, especially for those that have traveled by air. You find some staff handling baggage handling, or some staff that actually handle our ticketing issues. So these are the staffs that are on ground. Those are the staff we call the ground operation staffs. They take care of all activities that has to do with on the ground. While for the pilot, the crew, of course, and the aviation safety inspectors, air traffic controllers, they take care of all activities, every issues that has to do with safety in the air. So for the pilot, of course, we know they fly the plane, the cabin crew, and we still have other positions, but I just decided to list some here so that we just have a clue of what we are talking about. Now, when we look at the talent management in the aviation, you find out that even the recruitment process, how you source for these staffs are also the process is also different For example, you might have an airline that probably they want to come in with a trainee. So what would the airline do? They approach the Aviation Training Institute and then tell the institute that okay, they need fresh pilots, the ones that are just trained, that have not been attached to any airline. And why do they do that? They want to inculcate the culture and the safety rules, the safety procedures, so that's set, because they sometimes they also want to use some of the pilot from this set. They target them to have the opportunity of having to rise to the position of a flight safety manager, rise to the position of a flight operation manager, or the DG, or the flight director, as the case may be. So it now depends on the goal of the organization. For example, an airline decides to have different routes, maybe to Anambra, maybe to Cross River, maybe to Uyo. Of course, what they then do is that they look out for crew that either now what they do is that they look out for two set of crew. One set will be the set that already have the experience, and then they also look for the second set that don't have the aviation experience at all. But of course, they have that basic training. For example, you want to employ a pilot, you will not just go to pick a candidate that had not gone to a pilot training school institute at all. No airline will go for such, because definitely that means you just want to bring in the person probably to just come into the organization and be carrying files. So for all aviation, for all the airlines in the aviation sector, they look at one, the set of those that have experience and the set of those that don't have experience. Why do they do that? They do that because they know that there is need for the set of talent that had experience to also train the new intakes. Also have in mind that we are dealing with a fragile sector. The pilot, the crew can apply for jobs anywhere the pilot. That is why so many times you find out that a lot of pilots in Nigeria tend to go to elsewhere to apply for jobs. So also in Nigeria, you have other nationals come to work in Nigeria as either as crew. Some we have them some as crew. You have some of them as flight safety managers. You have some of them as aircraft maintenance technician. You have some of them as air traffic controller. So the sector is open for all. It's not just restricted to the locals. So now, when we go from here, the next aspect has to do with why are we looking at this issue, and why do we think they are necessary? Why talent management matters in aviation? It matters because we are dealing with critical sector. We are dealing with a complex environment. We are dealing with high stake operation, and also we are dealing with global competition. So that is why the talent in the aviation sector are managed differently. Okay, are managed differently because of the fragile nature of the business. Oh, sorry, 1 second, please. I think I have to move to my slide. Sorry, 1 second. So this is one of, I don't know why it's not showing the full screen. Please pardon me. Now, why are we looking at this sector? Just like I said earlier, we are dealing with a critical industry that has zero tolerance to errors. Zero tolerance to errors. We are dealing with an industry that is complex. And so, because of it in this industry, because of the peculiarities, you find out that when you recruit the staffs, there are a lot of things that you need to put in place. You have the NCA officials, that's the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority officials, coming to check the operation, coming to check the safety standard, also checking if all these licensed staffs, if their staffs are still, if their license are still running. They also check if the aircraft is airworthy. And so, because of this, as a HR professional dealing with this set of staffs, you also need to be very careful because they are working under pressure. And so, when they come into HR, they are all coming in for you as the first HR person that they see, be you a HR officer, be you a junior staff. They don't want to know, and I'm being practical here. I'm talking from my experience. When they come into HR department, they are not coming to speak to the head of HR. Whoever they meet, the first contact, they just believe that yes, they are in HR and you should be able to solve their problem immediately. And so some of the issues they look at, number one, comes from the angle of, okay, I need, even as a little issue as leave matter. Please, can you tell me when I'm supposed to go on leave? I'm very busy. I will come back tomorrow to get the feedback because they are working with time. They are also working with their schedule. They need to be on ground, like for the crew, they need to be on ground 2 hours before their flight. At the same time, they've decided to come to HR to get one or two issues being resolved. So when they come in, you are expected to give them all the attention. That is not the time that you now decide to keep them waiting so that you also make them realize that you are also another authority in the office. No. For them, they are not there to look at who is the boss. They need this issue to be resolved, and it must be resolved immediately. So now what do you do? Even if you look at the issue of leave, if you look at the issue of maternity leave, for example, if you look at the issue of salary, if you look at, for example, they have issues with probably documentation, the HR staff, and that is why for some organizations in the aviation sector, they tend to have one HR officer that is attached to each of the departments. And why do they do that? That person serve as a business partner to that department. And the whole essence is to get all issue resolved on time without having to delay. Because they also have short time to spend with you, and they can snap easily. Remember that they are working under pressure. They need to deliver, because any slightest delay from their own end can also cause a delay in the operation. And when there's a delay in operation, it also disrupts the flight schedule. Once there's a disruption in the flight schedule, of course, we know what that means. And that is where you have a lot of the passengers at the airport raining abuses, complaining. So they will not know that, oh, it was all because a HR officer in the office did not attend to a crew on time. And the crew probably need that information to be able to plan the next flight, because the crew is coming to the department because that information is necessary for them to go back with to OCC. OCC is the Operation Control Center. And sometimes what does the crew in the OCC unit does? They want to see, are you free? Do you have any issue with HR to clear? Do you have anything pending? Because it is that feedback that will also help them to plan ahead. So why am I emphasizing on this? It's just to tell you that talent management in the aviation sector is not something you treat with lip gloss. It is an issue that you need to handle. If very, very important. I remember when I joined the aviation sector. In fact, the first month when I joined, of course, I from Skype Aviation Handling Company, which happens to be the handler of one of the airlines. So when I joined the airline, I realized that all the crew are they're always on the move, always on the move, and I was so excited. And in fact, it gives me joy. Why? Because I realized that, oh, these are people that don't have time to waste. And what do? Once they come into my office, I give them priority. I give them priority because I know that it is the way I attend to them that also helps to take up the heat or whatever they are going to face in the field. So we need to realize that their work environment is unique and is stress. The environment is very stressful, very, very stressful because when they take off, for example, the pilots, the cabin crew, when they take off from Lagos, mind you, they have a particular route to cover in a day. So they take off from Lagos to Abuja. That doesn't mean that's the end of the flight for them, especially if it's an airline that have a lot of routes. Like probably they have over 15 states that the airline covers. So you find out that as they move from Abuja they move to Enugu, from Enugu they move to Kano, and so you can imagine the stress involved. So now, as the back end staff that is assisting them, how do you come in? How do you try to ensure that they leave your office feeling happier? Remember that sometimes their schedule can also be unpredictable. Remember, why am I emphasizing on this? I'm emphasizing on this to bring out the picture why the operation why the operation in the aviation sector is critical and is very, very stressful. Remember that they are also working based on the ICAO standard. There's an ICAO standard of when the plane is to take off, what is the delay, and when there is a delay, what is implication. No business wants to run based on running foul against the aviation regulation. ICAO serve as like the audit unit. They want to see, oh, a particular airline, what is their what is their report like on takeoff time? What is their report like on landing time? What is their report like when there's a delay? How do they treat the passengers? Now, every airline try as much as possible to avoid being going against the rule and regulation of the aviation industry. So that is why when we are dealing with them, we need to be very, very careful. We need to pay attention to them and also give more time. If you know that what you're handling on your decks may not give you the time to attend to them because the person is a pilot or the person is a cabin crew, does not mean you must be the only person to attend to them. All you need to do is delegate. Why am I saying this? I've seen a situation whereby, because it has to do with pilots, because it has to do with the cabin crew, a particular officer one day decide to attend to a cabin crew, and they now have like 6, 7 crew before this particular officer, and he wanted to attend to everybody. So you can imagine, by the time you attend to one person, the other person will be delayed. And at the end, the other person keep calling operation. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in HR. Oh, I'm in HR. HR has not released me. HR has not released me. Now, when the operation unit have to make report, they make a report, and the report, when they have a general meeting. That meeting is called operation meeting. Operation meeting involves all the heads of each department. They come there and they give a report of each unit. The first thing the managing director will say is, so now give us the report, give us the good side, give us the bad side. And so when the bad side comes to HR, they won't spare you. When it comes to other units, they also don't spare. So you try as much as possible to ensure that HR always get a clean slate anytime it gets to that report time. Remember that some of these roles, like I mentioned, are very sensitive. And so it is also our duty to also follow up with them. Now, if you are attached to each of the department, it is your duty to work closely with the training units. Because remember, I said it's a high stake operation. I know I'm still on this page. It's a high stake operation. Of aviation operation involve high stake decision making and a commitment to precision, requiring a workforce that can understand and flow with what is expected. So as a HR, that is where you come in. What what do you need to do? What do you need to do to make the staff to be well equipped? So it is your duty to work with the department to ensure that their training manual is up to date, that their training course is prepared and presented to management. If it has to do with recruitment, you don't wait until when the red flag is shown. It is your duty to work closely with the flight operation department to ensure that all the candidates required are presented. Now, because you're working with other departments, especially for this sensitive role, mind you, a lot of time the CVs will come from them. That is sometimes you get a hard copy CV. You also make do with technology. You send out an email, send out information where people can apply, and then you work with the flight operation. If you are attached to flight operation, you work with the cabin crew department. If you are attached to cabin crew, you work with the OCC unit. If you are attached to that unit, to ensure that the candidate that are shortlisted tallies with what is required for the position. So this is not a time that I said, oh, after all, it is not my business. Let them give me what they want. No, because when you don't do the right recruitment, when you fail in your own duty, the flight operation unit, the cabin crew unit, the ground department, yes, the ground operation department will hands off. They say, no, this is HR bit. This is where you come in. If they had made mistake, they throw the ball back at you. And then when you are on the call, when the interview is going on, that is not when you fold your hands to say, oh, this is not a unit that I have experience. After all, I've never flown a plane before. After all, I've not gone for flight operation training before. No, you look at, this is where you apply all the technical skills that you can see. For example, you ask a candidate a question, a behavioral question, to find out, for example, which was one of the angle I shared on my LinkedIn page. A question that goes to us to say, for example, you have been asked to resume work, and all of a sudden, somebody close to you, your wife, for example, just took ill. What will you do? Now, what are you trying to assess? You don't need to have a flying experience to determine if the person will tell you, oh yes, I'll quickly run to the office to resume work. Why? Because that person will not, the candidate will not be mentally at alert to assume that role. Because mind you, the percentage of error in aviation is zero. Because any slightest mistake can result to a serious operation issue, which can ground the operation and even take down the airline. Even for the ground staffs, you have the flight controller, you have the load controllers. If you are not so detailed, even when you're doing your interviews, to pick if these candidates have what it takes, because now in this sector, it is not an issue of man no man. Oh, I know this person. Oh, he's my brother. He's coming to be the pilot. No, I tell myself when I'm always on the panel to say this person will fly the plane. This load controller will be the one to tell if the load so far what had been entered in the plane, the passenger and the load and whatever. If this person has been able to check the system to ascertain if the load and the passenger put together is safe for that plane to go or not. So if I bring in sentiment, or because of his, let me use the word paddy, and things go wrong, then I had also contributed in not making the airline to have a talent that are suitable for the business. Now, in this page, we look at safety criteria in the industry, which is part of what I've talked about. Pilot training, the technical maintenance training, air traffic controller training. Their trainings are not just, the pilot training, for example, are not just limited to local. They have trainings for both local and international. They have to go for their simulator. They have to go for the training for the type training here has to do with what type of plane are they flying. Those are the type of training you give to them. You don't give a pilot that is attached to Boeing 737, for example. You say, oh, since we have additional slots for a Hawker plane, or we have a slot for CRJ 900, for example. And because this particular pilot have been a close friend, in fact, he buys me chips and all that. No, they are now decide to work with the training manager of flight operation to change it. No, mind you, in each of those units, they also have their training managers. I need to point this out. So if you are in HR as a training rep of HR, what are you doing? You are liaising with the training heads of each of those departments to ensure that the right training, the payment for the training, whatever that might delay that training for not happening is cleared. And so, what do you do? Does it have to do with course? Does it have to do with the trainer? That is where you have to work. You put your heads together and ensure that every bottleneck is cleared, even if it means going as far as taking the issue to the managing director to ensure that those issues are cleared. It is your duty. I remember when I was attached to the pilot unit, aside from other unit that I also handled, I realized that anytime there is any issue, be it recruitment, once we are done with the recruitment, and I know I'm always working to ask the pilot, oh, when do you need this person? It's okay, I need this person in the next 3 weeks. I said, okay, good start. I ensure that I take the paper, the approval, I prepare the approval after getting the head of HR approval. I take it upon myself to go straight to the manager's the MD's office to get the final consent to say, oh, sorry, sir, we have sent you a mail. This is a hard copy of the mail that was sent to you. Please, sir, we need your response. And sometimes the MD would tell me, Mary, give me business justification. Give me business justification. I remember the first time I got to the pilot unit when I have to present a case to the MD, and the MD make that comment. I have to go back to tell myself, what is he saying? What does it mean by business justification? And then I realized that no, he need me to explain why do we need those set of crew. And I have to explain that, sir, we have an aircraft on ground, Boeing 737-900, without crew. We have the cabin crew on ground, the other crews, the other staffs that needs to work with that aircraft on ground, the aircraft cleaners on ground, but we don't have the pilot. This set of pilot have been interviewed, and they need to go for their training. And after doing that, he said, okay, I'll call you back. He did the approval, and by the time I got to my own office, he has approved it. Remember, what did I say? I happen not to be the head of HR, but I did not wait for the head of HR because I know that the head of HR was also busy. So I have to seek her consent. Ma'am, what do you expect me to do? Can I take it straight to the MD based on the fact that we have already sent the email? So we need to be proactive. You don't wait. You don't say, oh, after all, the mail has been sent. Because the MD too is busy. He has a lot on his table. So same with technical and maintenance technician. Sometimes the maintenance team may get so busy and may not remember that, oh, their license needs to be renewed. And so it is your duty to work with the head of technical and maintenance unit to confirm, sir, have you checked your schedule and what is it saying? Who are those that needs to go for renewal? You need to have that meeting on a regular basis. So in the aviation sector, it is not a tea party sector. No, everybody is on the go. You work hand in hand with all the units. Even the least person in HR works as if he or she is the head of HR. And that is the truth. Because when the chiefs are down, it is the department that will be penalized, and not just one person. Nobody wants nobody wants the department to be taken to DC to when there is an issue to say, oh, the department did not respond to the staffs well, or maybe, for example, you have a cabin crew, for example, that is supposed to have gone for leave, and because HR has not approved, come on, you invariably destabilize that cabin crew mentally. And you can find out that that meant just because you did not attend to that cabin crew at that point in time, guess what? The cabin crew can just call in to say, oh, I'm sorry, operation unit, I can't go for that flight. I'm not in my right mental frame of mind. And you'll be amazed because HR failed to do what we expected to do. So this is very, very important. Now we're looking at the complex regulatory environment. Is an environment that is fully regulated. You look at the aircraft certification. We talked about the license of the staffs, the license uh, of the airline. You also talk about the airworthiness, and they also look at the impact. For example, part of those that regulate our aviation sector in Nigeria, we also have the NCA, that's the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. And what do? They look at safety. The aim of this body is to ensure safety of the civil aviation industry. That is their main aim. They looked at the operation, they concentrate on the operation. And how do they do this? They check to ensure that all what is required, be it license, be it the training body that will have to train the staffs, it is part of their duty. They they come from the angle of ensuring that that training body have what it takes to train the staffs. You also have fan provides the maintenance, and they also provide the personnel, they provide the staff, so they give service. They ensure that the facility at the airport is safe and is up to standard, so that any airline that comes to have business, that carries out any operation, will have a smooth operation. So they provide the enabling environment for a smooth operation. That is fun. You also have the IATA. IATA has to do with ensuring that all all the airlines, all the international airlines get the support that they need. So they liaise with decision makers. And what do? They help to regulate policies that the government or the regulators of the airports, they ensure that the policies that this government parastatals come up with are not so injurious to the airlines. That is IATA. And what ICAO does is that they set standard and ensure safety of aviation. So ICAO serve like auditors. And that is why when they come to any country, ICAO and IATA are international body. So they have same standard for all airlines across the world, same standard. You can't drop the ball. And that is why it's so easy for the crew, for example, in a particular country, let's say country A, to look for employment in another country because they have similar training standard, and so they can fit in. So the only thing they now have to do is that when they move to another organization, or when they move to another airline in another country, all what they are doing is they are getting a training to either get the training on the type of the aircraft, that is if they don't have the type of the aircraft captured on their license. And then they also get the training to also bring them into the culture of the organization. So all this is just to ensure that the airlines are in conformity with what is expected of them. You also have the Nigerian Airspace Management, and they are in charge of air traffic control. You also have some other bodies as well. So some of these bodies I mentioned are some are for Nigeria. That is for those that I'm saying this on in case if we have probably people, whoever that is attending this section, this seminar, that are not in Nigeria, the NCAA, FAN that I mentioned, NAMA, are some of the regulatory bodies that can be found in Nigeria. Now, looking at the high stake of operation, because it's a critical phase, the takeoff and the landing, managing the flow of traffic, looking at the emergency procedure. So you find out that all the units, work hand in hand. If we go to flight schedule unit, for example, the flight schedule unit cannot go ahead to schedule a crew for a flight without checking if the crew has the license still running. And so they have a system, a software that captures all that information. So if the crew, for example, needs to renew the license, the system flags that particular crew. And so it shows that no, this crew is not supposed to be on the flight. This crew is not supposed to be on a particular route. This crew is due for a training. This crew needs to be stepped down. And so because of the high stake of operation, most of the time they always have standby crew. I need to spell this out. They always have standby crew because they know that emergency can come up. And why do they do that? Someone might be planning to leave the house for operation. When I mean operation, I mean the flight operation. And it could be a ground staff as well. And an emergency can just come up in the house. Remember, I cite an example of interview when I asked someone, it's okay if, for example, somebody in your house just took ill. What do you do? Will you come to work? So for the crew, you don't force them to come to work. They can call to tell you, oh, I'm so sorry, I am not in a good frame of mind. ABC just happened. That is not when you have to say, no, 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 no. We have scheduled you already. You need to go for this flight. If you don't go, now I'm going to refer you to HR, and then they report you to HR, and HR just start to say, oh, in fact, you know what? You are grounded. We are suspending you. No. At that point in time, you are supposed to step that call the staff later to say, okay, can you attend to the issue? I will call you back. Can if I call you back 30 minutes or 1 hour, is it fine? The staff will tell you no, or the staff will tell you yes. What are you trying to do? You're also trying to give the staff opportunity to also allow you into his space, to his or her space. Some people may have an issue and they may not want to carry anybody along. Yes, you have some staff that are like that. They either want to reflect, or they want to go through whatever they are going through for some minutes or some hours, and then they will now be able to open up. Some, it could even be that they went for an hangout, and the effect of that hangout is still on them. And in the aviation rule, if you know you are not capable, one of the requirement of the staff is that you are expected to voice out. Because if you don't voice out and anything goes wrong, you will also be taken back for assessment, medical assessment, to ascertain if you were medically fit to go for that flight or not. Why am I bringing this up? Sometimes when we want to do our job, we say, oh, because this person did not come to work, we are going to suspend. We need to make him or her to face a disciplinary hearing. No, that's not when you start thinking about disciplinary or no disciplinary at all. Disciplinary does not come in at that point in time. So for a smooth takeoff and landing, and for that accurate precision to be maintained, and for the crew to be meticulous on their job in order to ensure 100% safe operation. These are what these are part of what HR is expected to do. Now, looking at the rapid technological changes, because of course, a lot of changes comes up. A lot of changes comes up. But before I continue, I want to be sure. Can you hear me? Let me be sure that you can still hear me loud and clear.
I can hear you.
Yes, we can
Well
hear
done.
you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Now, looking at the
mhm.
rapid technological changes, as a HR officer, as a business support, as a business partner, an advisory partner, as employee relation, whatever your designation, you are also expected to be on top of your game. What are those new technologies that are being introduced that will enhance your job? Because in aviation, there are always changes, and that is one of the reasons why you have the crew always going for recurring training. In fact, if you see the crew, there is no time you go to cabin crew department, you won't find them reading. In fact, the first time I got to the aviation sector, I asked myself, I said, why are these people always reading? They keep reading as if they are going for an exam. If you are not there to give them that necessary backup, that support, because the stress of reading, the stress of having to be trained every now and then, every 3 months, every 2 months, every month, they are always going for a training or the other. Because of that, you are also expected to ensure that whatever approval that is necessary to update or to purchase whatever technological software that they need. Once they come through HR, you are also expected to give them that support. Sometimes they might sometimes they also have that passage to management direct. Yes, sometimes because the management also give them that attention. So, but as HR, you are also expected to come in to always keep asking them, oh, which area do you expect from us? What area are you expecting from? So when there's a new technology put in place, they expect HR to come in form of training. They expect HR to make the environment, the training room ready. And also, they also have a training room that they have, like some airlines have a simulator training room. And what does that training room do? It helps some of the crew to have a semi training before they are being sent outside the country for that training. So this is where we also come in. So if as a HR handling the training you handling the training bit, this is where you also come in. You are expected to ensure that if there is a training organization that needs to come in to handle a training, we are expected to liaise with that training unit per second per minute. There is no delay. You don't wait to say, oh, you're waiting for the operation unit to tell you when to start. No, we are expected to be proactive. Integration of connected device and sensors enhance efficiency and safety in operation. And that is why the, there are these changes comes in every time. Now we also are expected to work with data. What are the feedbacks? The software that they are using, we are expected to keep asking, is it serving the purpose which you are expected? Because the operation unit software is always different. Yeah, you have a CRM, crew resource management, that is universal. You have a software that is universal, that connects all the department. But the operation also have other software that is in alignment for licensing purpose, for crew optimal efficiency. So we need to leverage on data, work on the feedback that they are giving you. What are they saying? What area are they struggling with? If, for example, it has to do with the software that has to do, maybe, for example, getting people, for example, customers calling and they want to book for flights, and the software they are using is actually the ticketing unit is also not serving the purpose. That is where we are expected to come in. So in the operation unit, when they are making the feedback, when they are giving the feedback, HR is not expected to hands. Oh, because it's operation, it's none of my business. No, you are meant to come in at that point in time. The ticketing unit had just come up with an issue. Oh, the software we are using, it tends to give us issue. We cannot reconcile the numbers of customers that had booked in ticket, and when we want to cancel flight, we tend to have issue reaching them on time. So for the HR, what do? You don't just sit down and say, okay, this is operation. That is when you come in to say, okay, what can we do? Okay, can we take this up after this meeting? The head of ticketing and revenue, then what do you think we shall do? Let's fix a meeting there and there. Come up with a suggestion, come up with a solution. That is how they will see that you're adding value. I remember one time when the head of the department, of all departments, attended operation units meeting. And I think that was the first 4 months of joining the organization. This particular period, the head of HR went for vacation. And so when he went for vacation, they asked someone in the HR to stand in. And in my own unit, after the head of HR, we are three. So out of the three of us, we have the first person that comes first. I happen to be the third. Of course, I just joined the organization. Those other two have been in the organization for like 5 years before I joined. So they happen to be my senior. Now, the person that the head of HR um, put in as someone to relieve him for any management meeting, unfortunately was not in the office. The next in line was also not in the office. And I was left in the office alone. And then an instruction came from the secretary, from the MD. Oh, HR, 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 HR. That's how they call us, HR, HR. Oh, we need you at the operation unit. MD knows that your department head is not around, so we need one of you. And I said, oh, sorry, Matthew is not on seat. Actually, Matthew is supposed to be the one. And the lady said, I don't know, but all I know is that instruction has been given and I've passed the message. Now, what did I do? I kept playing the tape in my head. I said, oh, Mary, you are just in this organization for 4 months. Now you are expected to go for management operation meeting. And what did I do? Of course, there are some informations that the head of department have because of the level that he occupied. And I just told myself, okay, just go. Whichever one you can answer, answer. Whichever one you cannot answer, tell them you will get back to them on that. The whole essence is you are expected to represent the department. And what am I, this meeting I'm talking about was not a junior meeting, it was management operation meeting. And so what did I do? I went with my little note. In fact, I make sure I sat, in fact, almost close to the door. And I acted like the secretary. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm here to represent HR. Unfortunately, my head of department is on leave. But whatever the issue that I can attend to, I will respond. And whichever one I cannot respond, please, sir, I will take notes and then I'll report back. And the MD said, fantastic. And that was how we moved. And when the finance department made an issue against HR, because it was an issue that I know we have attended to, I said, oh, sorry, sir, we've attended to that. Please check your mail. And if you can't find the mail, I'll go back to the office and will resend it. And that was how the meeting ended up being successful. Now, when I went back to the department, what did my head of department do? My head of department just said, oh, Mary, fantastic. I got the feedback. Well done. Although I did not ask you to stand in for me, but it was good that you were able to build the department. So what am I saying? It means that we all are expected to be ready. Sometimes you may not be able to answer some questions, but show up and don't go for a meeting panicking. Now, when I went for that meeting, I went there because I want to also learn, number one. I also want to get feedback. I also want to know their pain points from that operation meeting and ensure that when I go back to the department, I discuss it with my colleagues and we're able to tackle it together with our boss. So this is very, very important, and it's something that we all need to pay close attention to. So if you look at the industry, it's a global space. Employee moves past, in fact, the rate that employee leaves an organization is so alarming. But some organizations that have been able to manage their talents excellently well have been able to reduce the attrition rates. For example, I remembered when we had issue with crew, for example, when we there was a policy. We have some policies that states that, oh, as a crew, if you are pregnant, you cannot fly. At a certain stage, you cannot fly because your safety and the baby safety is priority. And so what do they now do? By the time you get to a particular stage, you now have to step the crew down. Oh yes, they need to step the crew down because it's part of the requirement. And now when we step the crew down, what do you now do? Now it's okay, it is time for those crew to go for maternity leave. Now, before the maternity leave stage, because this crew, you need to step the crew down, we also create an avenue for the crew to also learn, from other departments. So what do we do? Now, for the next 8 months, the crew will not be flying, or for the next 10 months, that crew will not be flying, but you also want them, but they'll also be earning their salaries. So what do you now do? You also assign them to some other department. Sometimes we find out from them, oh, which department would you want to be attached to? That is how we put it. Which other department would you want to be attached to? You say, oh, this person will say, oh, I want to be in HR. Oh, I want to be in this. And then we assign them based on the need of each of those departments. We also give them support. And sometimes we realize that some of those crew get so excited and they say, oh, I think I can build my career in this line. Oh, I think I don't want to go back to flying. Oh, I think and so it makes the experience for them more exciting, and that helps them to also appreciate what the other department go through while trying to give them support. Now, at the same time, you don't say because they are going for maternity leave, oh, 3 months, oh, 4 months, or whatever the case might be. You now decide to say, oh, because of that, they will not be entitled for their salary. No, they will still give them their full salary. They still enjoy their full salary because they are also adding value to the organization. They are not just marking time. And even when they are flying, you can still see the impact they have been able to make. So sometimes some of them you can also see that, oh, even when you also assign them to some roles, either in each department, and we also assess them to see, are they capable, looking at their mental state and their physical state. So when we notice that, oh, they look fragile, oh, it's okay, no, we need a medical report to ascertain you are also fit. That is also part of what we work with. And so this had also helped to ensure that we keep our talent. Also, in the aspect of engagement, we also realize that when we are coming up with internal policies, we get them involved. We allow them to suggest new operation process that can also enhance the internal operation to be faster. When I mean internal operation, for example, you want to move a particular document, or you want to move a particular training, or they need a particular assignment to be done, or they need a uniform, or they need the uniform unit. Because we also have the uniform unit. They need their uniform to be ready at so time. So you also need to check all that. So we give them all this support and ensure that they don't leave disgruntled. So for the scheduling unit, for example, We are expected to work with the scheduling unit. And what do? You work closely with the scheduling manager to interface. Sometimes you find the scheduling manager not just discussing with the crew, they go to the extent of discussing with the crew family. Yes. So we have a family and relationship, especially for the scheduling manager, for the OCC crew, for the pilot, for operation in general. We don't just limit up our conversation with the staffs. And that is where you find that bond being established. And so when you have some airlines either struggling with keeping with their staff, you also have some airlines that have been able to keep their staffs. I remember where I worked. In fact, it was so difficult for other airlines to get our staffs. One, in the area of training, we give them excellent training. They also get to see our safety training record. They also want to be alive. So they saw the efforts the training units were making, the operation was making, management was making, HR was also making. And that also helped to keep most of the staff for a long while. They also get to see the route of growth. It was just so fantastic. For example, you have a pilot that had come in as for example, a pilot that has come in, for example, and that pilot decide to come in because the pilot doesn't have any training, right? So he come in as a novice. Now, looking at the training, the pilot stays glued. He realizes that, oh, I don't have a type rating for this aircraft, and this airline has decided to give me that training. Mind, please note, these trainings are always very, 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 very expensive. Very, very expensive. So when you have an airline that is ready to invest in the talent, you find out that those talents don't go. This talent stays for long. Now, this talent for the pilot, for example, he come in as a pilot. The next route is first officer. Coming as first officer. This next route is senior first officer, for example, and then the next route is captain. And so he gets to see that route. And of course, this is not an issue of I know this person before I can get to senior flight first flight of, officer position. No. How did they get that done? Because the process is transparent. They work with their logbook. They work with their logbook. Yes, sometimes they give them the bond, and that bond runs at the period of the training for that type of that aircraft, because it takes a lot to invest in a crew. And most of the time, for what I have seen, because of the safety record, most of the crew that I had come in contact with while I was in the aviation, I found out that they don't want to leave because of the safety record. They don't want to leave because of the safety record. They also don't want to leave because the airline also provides accommodation. And this accommodation are in the form of guest houses. Those guest houses takes care of their lunch, takes care of their breakfast, takes care of their dinner. So running an aviation business is capital intensive, sincerely speaking. So when you have an airline that invests so much in their talent, because of these indices that are pointed out, it becomes a bit difficult for the airline, for the talent to leave the organization. Nobody wants to leave an organization to an organization that you are not sure of the safety record. Oh, yes. And that is why because of that, you find out that because of the safety record, you find out that the airline tend to expand this coverage. Oh, before you know, you get to hear, oh, this airline, oh, today they are going to Seoul route. Oh, today they are going to Seoul route. Oh, before you know, they are going to Seoul route. And gradually they expand into other countries. And because of that expansion to other countries, it also served as a plus for the airline. It's also served as a plus. So it even make the HR job easier because the staff wants to go out of the country to also see what is obtainable in other countries. And so the flight scheduling and manager, together with the HR, also helps the talent management effectively. Sometimes you also have the talent. Probably, for example, they have scheduled the talent to maybe cover the route going to UK. And maybe the talent is finding it difficult to say, probably the talent wants to stay put in a local route. And so you find the scheduler will tell the talent, we can come up to say, oh, do you realize that you go for this route? You can also have a training in maybe UK. You can also sponsor yourself for a training. We can make a schedule for you. Look for a training that is okay for you in the next 3 months, and we can stretch, we can schedule your training. We can schedule your flight to cover that period. Oh, yes, you can have that conversation. And when you have that, it becomes a plus. And so you find such staff staying longer with the organization because there's an additional advantage. You find such staff, when such staff realizes that they don't need to wash their uniform, the uniform are being provided for them by the airlines. All the uniform staffs that we get to see in operation, all the uniform staffs, all the uniform are being provided by the airline. They are being, all the washing, the dry cleaning and all that is being taken care of by the airline. And so it is also our duty to liaise with the admin to ensure that the necessary numbers of uniform for each staff are made available at the point of recruiting, at the point of engaging them. You have to spell out what and what then that we need to provide, so that we don't just leave them hanging. It's not a situation where somebody had resumed and it's just for the person to now go for a flight. He starts struggling. Oh, what am I? Where do I pick my uniform? No. And that's why the onboarding process spell out everything. You take them from one unit to the other, from one department to the other. In that onboarding process, you don't rush it. You don't say, oh, you need to quickly cover up. It's my KPI, I need to cover at 2 days. No, because they need to understand, and they also need to understand the connection between each department for operation to be effective. So now looking at the talent retention strategy, which is part of what I've talked about, you look at the salary. How are they being paid? You find out that for the crew, they always have a basic pay, right? And then they also have additional payment in line with the routes that they are going to cover. If, for example, the crew will cover, let's say, Lagos to Abuja, there is a payment for that. If there is a package from Abuja to Kano, that's a different package. So you are expected to be able to capture this. Of course, there is a software that all this information are being captured. Then you also have the night stop. What is night stop? Night stop, for example, has to do with, for example, the crew needs to move from, let's say, Lagos to Abuja, from Abuja to Kano. And the last flight in Kano is 6 p.m. At that point, the crew have to sleep in Kano. So we are expected to ensure before that time, to ensure that the hostel, sorry, the accommodation, the guest house for those crew are already intact. There is no issue of debt. There is no issue of running from pillar to post to not get finance approval for the amount to be paid. No. So in that case, there is that payment, that nice stop allowance. That's what is called nice stop allowance. You are expected to capture it right. So you see how the staffs are being paid. You have the route payment. You have the night stop allowance. So you find out that crew are always eager to cover more routes, but there is also a caveat. So long as they don't go beyond the requirement, each month, each period, they have the max that they are not expected to go. When there are issues, let's say on salary payments, what do they do? So they sometimes complain first. Some of them, probably because they cannot reach HR quickly, so they complain to the department. Okay. Now the department will bring the issue straight to HR, of course, via email. But sometimes they also calm down. It's also good to stretch your legs so they calm down. And how do you undo some of those complaints? You go back to the contract. What does the contract state? What and what did we agree with this group? Where did we get it wrong? Okay, if it's not from HR, could it be from finance? Sometimes finance can say, "Oh, we did not see that on the part of what was sent." It's okay. Sorry, didn't send that. Then we now need to send an apology to the staff. Now, in this case, you don't say, "Oh no, it's finance fault." Then no, you admit, "Oh, sorry, failed to. We've noticed this. Oh, please come to HR and we will make this payment outside of the payroll because the payroll had closed because they have a calculation already. They have expenses that they had calculated. So you don't say because of that we are going to keep them. We delay that issue till another next month payroll. No. So you have the performance bonuses, you have the benefit packages, you have the education assistance, and you have the travel opportunity. Sometimes the travel opportunities for some of the crew, for example, if they need to go maybe to Calabar and they are not supposed to be on that flight, what do? Sometimes they liaise with another crew to say, okay, I'm supposed to go to Calabar, but I'm scheduled to go to Enugu. You are supposed to go to Kano. Do you mind we swap? And once there is an agreement and understanding, as well as carrying the scheduling unit along, carrying the OCC unit, and we find out that we they have such. So those are part of the travel opportunities. Even when they want to go on vacation, they also have such. Sometimes even the ground operation staff also have travel opportunities. Sometimes they can say, okay, because the flight is maybe 200,000 naira, because you are part of us, you can just pay 20%. I know that I had benefited not once, not twice while I was in the aviation sector. So there's always this fantastic travel opportunities. But it now depends on the airline. If you make it more robust, you'll be amazed that just because of the travel opportunity, you find the talent eager to stay with the organization for years without looking elsewhere. Also, the non-financial aspect, you have the career advancement, you have the work-life balance, like what I talked about. You can discuss we have a conversation with the scheduling manager. You say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I just gave birth to my baby and the baby body temperature and all that and all that." "Oh, fantastic. We are glad you have a beautiful baby. Oh, it's not a cause for you to have a baby. Okay, don't worry. We have a standby crew." And so we fall back to the standby crew. Even the ground operation staff, they also have a standby operation team, scheduling team that are meant to be on ground should in case you have a staff that could not cover a particular bit. And also they also have their off days. Oh, I need to emphasize on this. We are not expected to allow them to work all through. We are not expected to allow them to work all through Monday to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No, because they are also expected to have a break. They are also expected to rest. So we also have recognition program. How do you recognize the staff that have done very well? As a cabin crew, how do you reward such? And that is when you call, when it gets to the time of promotion, you give such candidates, you schedule them for SCCM, that's senior cabin crew position. You have a chat with them, and that is after going through the performance appraisal requirement, and immediately they get their promotion. Promotion in the aviation sector sometimes can even be twice in a year. Unlike some organizations that say, oh, you work 2 years, 3 years, you can even be in some department in the aviation and you have your promotion twice in a year. And it speaks to your performance, which of course others can see. And of course, you are also working with different talent from different countries. Oh yes, from different cultural background, from different beliefs. In fact, you can come and some might be from the Hindu, or some are from the Pakistan, not different countries, and so you don't have any discrimination. You are not expected to discriminate. Oh, because the way this person is speaking, I can't hear. No, you are expected to also be patient. So there's also the professional development, positive work culture, and it speaks from our body language. What can they perceive? What are they seeing? What are those non-verbal cues that you're giving out? That is also part of what form the positive culture, or what can negate the culture of the organization. For the succession planning, you have that leadership pipeline, mapping. Because of the performance, it makes it very, very easy for others to see who will be next. Yes, they get to know without even saying, oh, this person will be next. So sometimes they start to tease and say, the way you are working, you'll be our next line manager. Oh, the way you are working, you'll be the next this, you'll be the next that. Because the skill mapping and leadership pipeline is made obvious for all to see. And so once we help all the units to ensure that these goals are being achieved, we had succeeded in helping for talent retention. When there are issues, when there are issues with the crew or with the operation staff falling below standard, the line managers will first and foremost give a query to the crew to get their response. And if their response is not satisfactory, they escalate the complaint back to the HR. And so that is when the HR will step in. After going through what is expected, the grievances procedure, and a DC is required, the DC is set up. And during that DC, the department rep will be there. The HR rep will also be there. Operation unit head will also be there because it has to do with operation and the staff. Sometimes we even also ask the staff, oh, if you want one more person, do you want to come with a friend? Do you want to come with a witness? Do you want to? We also do that. And why do we do this? Is to ensure that the staff gets a fair hearing. And after the DC had been concluded, if the staff is guilty, at the end of that DC, before the DC end, you find out that the staff will also admit, although the staff may say, although I was expecting this, but I agree, I had gone wrong in this area. And so once the staff had admitted, it makes the work also easier. And then we now look for way forward. What does the DC say? Do you give a first warning? Do you give suspension? But of course, it must, if it has to do with 1 week suspension or whatever penalty, because penalty have to come if it's a serious issue to serve as deterrent to others. Or sometimes the penalty could be just, we are going to step you down from a particular route. Maybe this staff prefers a particular route. It's okay, because you have found one thing, we will step you down. So sometimes the penalty is not so severe, because you also want to ensure that the staff also understands why that punishment is being given, in order for him or her to appreciate what uh, has been done, so that such will not occur again. Now, if we also looked at one other issue, and which has to do with the fact that crew most of the time tend to tilt towards the HR staff that tend to be very patient with them. Yes, they tend to tilt to an HR staff that that speaks their language. When I say speak their language, what do I mean? They know that they're supposed to go for a particular flight and they have been deprived. Now, this is when they expect the HR to step in. How do you step in? I remember a particular time when a particular pilot was stepped down from flying. And what did I do? I didn't just jump like mother hawk to the department to say, "Oh, I realized this person was stepped down," and another. No. What did I do? I had a conversation with the staff, and I asked them, "Well, what do you think would have been the issue?" After having that conversation with the staff, I went back to the line manager, because for each flight, for each plane, they always have the fleet managers. So sometimes when you hear the word fleet managers, they are not just talking about the fleet, maybe fleet that the cars, you know. Fleet managers has to do with fleet managers, a particular fleet manager that handle a particular type of aircraft. And so when I had a conversation with the fleet manager, he said, "Oh, I noticed the attitude of this staff. He's very this, he's so arrogant, is this, is that." And of course, truly, even myself, I also noticed that arrogant part of him. But I also realized that coming down to his level, speaking his language, "Oh, so person, my guy, you are too much, you are this, but I've not seen you flying, no, 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 bring down your shoulder, bring down your shoulder." And then you find out that they come down and then they later do what you expect them to do. So after having that conversation with the fleet manager, I have to come back to the staff and I said, "Okay, what do you think we can do?" I said, "Okay, can you change your approach? Can you go this way? Can you approach him? Tell him that, okay, sir, which area do you think I should work on? Is there any area that is affecting my assessment with you? Because I know at the end, my performance appraisal will be given by you." And also, mind you, they also have logbook. The crew have a logbook. So if my logbook hours does not spell out number of hours that I have flown as a pilot, is a minus for me. So please, sir, I know that I also need you to excel in my profession. And after that conversation, that particular pilot was now rescheduled, was now asked to go for a training, because that training, they want to be sure he will be able to fly that plane, because for some months he was stepped down. So we need to pay attention to this. So in wrapping up, we find out that investing more in training is very essential. Building that strong partnership is necessary. We need to focus more on employee engagement. Let's not stick to our old way. For example, you had HR experience from another airline, and then, I mean, sorry, from a different sector, and you decide to bring in that particular method to your own office. After, in my former office, those staff will come to me. So I am now in the aviation, I'm now in the airline. They must also come to me. No, you have to remove that cap, that thinking mentality. You are now to serve them. So if you tell yourself you are serving them, they are not serving you, then it helps you to also help them to perform excellently well. I want to stop here. Um, in case if there is any question, do I still have is there room for questions, sir? Over to you, Dr. Adeosun. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening,
Thank you
sir.
so much for this excellent presentation. You can stop sharing your screen. Please, we have questions on the chat box. We are not taking any voice question today. So just scroll through the chat box. Any question you like to answer, feel free to answer. Anyone you want to skip, we will also permit you to skip it.
Okay.
So you can either scroll from up to down or from down to up.
Okay, so now,
We really
okay,
enjoy
I've
this
seen a
session.
question. Someone asked about the uniform, and the person said, who handles the uniform? So for the uniform, it is the airline. The uniform are always being provided by the airline, because, for example, now you tell someone to go and bring a uniform, let's say pink. Some people may have different shades of pink. For another person, a pink might be blue pink. For another person, it might be turquoise pink. For another person, it might be COVID pink, and different shade of pink. So you now have color riots. So for that uniformity to be maintained, the uniform are always being provided for by the airline. And so that is why the airline takes care of the laundry. And so all the crew needs to do is just, once they are done with a particular flight, they just go to the uniform unit. There is a uniform unit. So they go to the uniform unit and drop their uniform. There is always a staff, always on standby, to collect the uniform and, of course, take the record. Now, someone asked that I have not seen a plus size person as cabin crew before. Is worth a consideration. Also, it appears to consider height for cabin crew recruitment too. For height, I would say yes and no. Yes and no. The only thing why this, when you say height, you don't, if you fly a lot, you don't tend to fly. Oh, you don't tend to find, tall ladies as cabin crew or tall pilots. No, you don't find that. In fact, even for the pilot, you also find women. I have interviewed, and I've also been in a flight where you had all women on the cockpit. So for the cabin crew, yes, because most of the time it's not an issue of it's not like we're trying to shame this set, but because they also want to have that smart look and agile workforce, because most of the time they are always on their feet. Yes, they are always on their feet. For those that had flown, you realize that when anytime a passenger needs A or B, you call them. They tend to always walk very fast to come and attend to the person, and they go back, because you don't have them up to 10 or 15 on board. Sometimes you have them four, sometimes you have them five or six, also depending on the numbers of the passengers. So this has been a uniform standard in the airline practice. Even some of the airlines that I have seen, that I've flown with, that are different from even where I work, I've also seen similar standard. You also have uh, an issue of some said, sometimes some people will say, oh, can we also recruit females as pilots? Yes. A flight dispatcher, I had been in a place whereby the flight dispatchers were all men. And when I handled the interview, a lady came in, and the lady did excellently well. So I kept quiet and I was watching the panelists, and I asked, so what do you have to say? They said, well, and while they started talking, I started bringing out the positive side of the candidate, and she got the job. So sometimes it also has to do with the requirement, the standard requirement of the airline. In case if I missed any question, please, sir, you can also help me. So we will not take any. Okay. If I does not mind, how do HR handle grievance like plane crash from staff perspective? Okay, so thank you, sir, for that question. Now, when there is a plane crash, there's always the crisis response unit. the crisis response unit that handles those issues. So at that point, I'm talking now about disaster. So at that point, the staffs are not expected to grant any interview to any media or to any outlets, be it television, be it the print, be it social media. No, because it is the response um, unit that will handle that. Because number one, they also need to check who are actually on board that aircraft. Sometimes you can have ABC being scheduled to go on board, but at the last minute, a particular passenger must have stepped down. So if you work with that information, with that flight schedule, you may just find out that you have worked with the wrong information. So based on that, the detail of those that are on that aircraft, the next point of call will be there is a set of staff which the management would have already been appointed, pulled from some department to handle that bit, and they will be the ones to liaise with the families of the passengers involved. Now, coming to the aspect of the staffs, the airline will call for a meeting quickly. And if it has to do with the fact that, okay, some unit have to be on ground, while some have to be at home, work from home, it is from that meeting that those issues will be addressed. Because of the peculiarity of the issues, they may not have, of course, issue of crash is always very sensitive. So there's no way operation will operate fully when it comes to that period. So a management meeting and operation unit meeting will be called up immediately. And so that means some staff might be asked to stay back at home, while some staff may be asked to come to the office. But while at the office, they are also not expected to have any conversation regarding the issue. So a spokesperson is always being appointed on behalf of the organization to manage that aspect of the organization, and also to do a bit of damage control based on the type of information that are being churned out. So for the aviation sector has very specific guide, specified and unique HR pathway. Of course, the aviation industry also rely on the labor practice. Yes, we don't separate the Nigerian labor law. No, we don't separate that. We it is the why I have spoken a lot about what is obtainable in the aviation is just because for some people they might not for some of us on this call may not have had any working experience with the aviation. The Nigerian labor law applies to the aviation industry. Just that, for example, if you decide to say a crew can go for like maybe 3 months um, maternity leave, the aviation industry, the airline might decide to say, oh, we are mother friendly, or we want them to go for 5 months. So you are adding to what the Nigerian labor law has stated. So the Nigerian labor law now serve as the foundation, and so we build on what had been spelled out. So yes, it's also applicable um, in this situation. All right, skip any other question? Okay, so please, I want to ask, since recruitment can be done internationally, Is the salary structure also international? Thank you for the question. Now, for if the recruitment is being done internationally, now you find out that your contract will be based on where you are being recruited from. For example, if because we have operation in the, let's say, uh, Sierra Leone, for example, when we are going to also assess you, we also take into cognizance labor requirements for the employee that we are recruiting for Sierra Leone. I don't know if we get that. For example, we have operation also in Sierra Leone. I need us to get this correct. We have a operation also in Sierra Leone. So our airline also goes to Sierra Leone, goes to Ghana. Now we need to do recruitment for the Sierra Leone staff. So what we now need to use as a HR is that you also have to work with the labor requirement of Sierra Leone. So you don't base your requirement alone just because, oh, you have your Nigerian labor law and you want to use that to just oppose law. You have to also make do with that country's labor law. Now, if you're also being employed as an expatriate, you also have to make do with what is obtainable from that country. For example, the airline also goes to UK. What does the contract state for pilot that is being recruited from UK? What does the labor law state for pilot that is being recruited in Canada? And during the interview, these have to be spelled out. The candidate have to agree. If the candidate does not agree, of course, we have what is called rotation. What we call in our local palace as leave. Leave. We call that for the international talent. For example, for the pilot, we call that rotation. Or if you have like a vice principal, vice president of operation, it tells you, oh, I want to go for rotation. And if the contract states 1 month on, 1 month off, and that was agreed at the point of recruitment, you have to stick to that. Violation of any of this agreement can result in that employee taking you to court. And when they take you to court, of course, HR will be blamed for not ensuring that that agreement is being held also. And then the tendency for the image of the organization to be grounded is certain. So yes, the payment can also be done based on the international requirement. The agreement can be done based on the requirement of the labor law of the country which the operation will be domiciled. So I'm still trying to see if there's any other question that I must have missed out. Mm. Okay, so this question, but why are the airlines always rescheduling flight, especially local airlines? We won't. Okay, now remember I said that number one, if for example the staff had come to HR and they need something and they were not attended to, and mentally they get a bit imbalanced, they can immediately call in that they won't be able to handle that operation. And once they call in that they will not resume for that operation, it will disrupt the number of the crew that should have handled that operation. So sometimes it can be as a result of that. Sometimes it can be as a result of bad weather. Yes, because of course there are some things that uh, there are some feedbacks that comes to operation which will not come to the passengers direct. Sometimes it could be that there's a bad weather, and of course, the airlines' aim is to ensure that they take their passengers to and fro safely. And so, because of that, they cancel flights. Sometimes the operation, the flight might be cancelled because as a result of the plane having to take off, while doing their test run, they could notice a snag. And what do they refer to? What do we refer to as snag in the aviation? It means issues of a little issue just cropped up, which the engineers need to quickly fix. And an issue that they thought could take just 5 minutes may just end up resulting to maybe hours. And so because of that, it will disrupt. And so once a flight has been disrupted, there's that spillover effect to other flights. Also, there's also the issue of of probably, for example, you have a big shot coming into the maybe that airport, and they also need other airlines, other planes to hold forth. So they get instruction for the from the traffic control tower, and of course that will also affect. So for the airline not to have taken off, let's say 7 a.m. because someone is coming in, or maybe they need to clear the airspace, you find out that it also affects. Another issue also can be as a result of a sudden change. For example, an airline and a plane that have gone for a C check that is meant to come in to do that particular flight had not come in because of an issue which the airline is having, not because of the fault of the airline, probably because the country which that plane has been taken to is having an issue, maybe with the regulatory body of the country. And so they may just decide to hold back that plane. And so there are a lot of issues actually that may lead to airline having to cause a lot of delay in flight. Now, recruiting for pilot sometimes can be based on the fleet, and sometimes might not be based on the fleet. One, this depends on the financial muscle of the airline. And that was why I said in the airline, that in my earlier conversation, I said sometimes some airlines go as far as recruiting new greenhorn. They do that to also ensure that they keep those set of talents, because those set of talent are hungry to make hours. They are not hungry to change airline, because the beauty of a pilot is the number of hours you make. They want to be called a captain. They cannot get to that captain level if they don't meet up with the requirement. Age does not play a major role per se. Of course, there is that peak. There's age for retirement. But age does not play if they have what it takes. What they want to see when during the interview is your capacity, your efficiency, your attention to detail, your technical know-how, your adaptability to change. Those are key areas that the panel wants to see. So age does not count. Age does not count at all. If you have what it takes, then you can go in for it. Some pilots may not have. In fact, some airlines also take the extra effort of training people to become pilots. Sometimes they train them, and sometimes they also absorb some. Yes, the airline have I worked with have done something like that. So it's a flight article. Any other question? Mm, sorry, I'm trying to check if there's any other question that I may have skipped. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Adele. So say if I open airline, I will just bring you as consultant to manage it. Thank you. Okay, I think that's all for now, sir.
Just one more tiny question. The last question dropped.
Okay, the last question. Let me scroll down. Okay, so what happened if a crew member decide to run away in a foreign country? Now, what happened if a crew member decide to run away in a foreign country? Now, for such a crew member, of course, we've never had such issue. But in this situation, the airline liaises with the aviation, the regulatory body of in that. Is anybody saying anything? Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. We are with you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. So in that kind of situation, the airline work with the regulatory body of that country to state what has transpired and what flight that particular crew is meant to have handled. That is a return leg. And why do we do that? You have to do that in order to protect the airline, because for the crew to run away, the crew had also violated the regulatory law governing the relationship between the airline, between the regulatory body of our country with that airline. So that is another form of protecting the airline. So once that has been done, the country which that crew had escaped to will definitely fish the crew out, because the crew detail are always on the system, and so they can easily track such a crew, and within a short period they will definitely apprehend the crew. So once they apprehend that crew, it will not be that the crew have gone against the requirements for someone to come into that country legally. So it will not carry the picture of a crew entering that country illegally. So that will not become another case. So it will not be a case between that crew and the country. I hope I've been able to do justice to that question.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's all minister for this. Let's just quickly say thank you as she has successfully landed this plane tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are no operational issues, please let's unmute and thank her. We can speak, please, every minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. God bless you, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam. Ma. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much, madam.
Thank you.
The flight was very, very smooth and enjoyable. Thank you so very much.
And I hope we landed safely.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
did. Yes, we did.